Okay, it is 7:01 on May 16th, 2023. This is the St. Mark Street Park Working Group. Present, we have Marguerite Landry, Andrew Dennington, Kevin Miller, Grant Farrington, James Nichols Worley, Bill Sines, I think. Hold on.
Yes.
Good. Okay. And as guests, we have Sally Waters, Michael Clutchman from VHB, and Greg Russell from VHB. All right, I think that does it. All right, first order of business is the minutes for the May 5th meeting. Do we have any emendations or corrections? Okay, not hearing any.
I've got, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, let me just bring this up. On item 3, James, you have space for new historical plaque for, it's the Southborough Center Historic District. Would be nice to, Southborough Center Historic District, like behind me. Historical commission rather than historic. Secured, I don't care how it's phrased, secured funding for it's ARPA funds, for the record.
Okay.
The only other thing I had on the minutes was, and I'm agnostic for the record, James, on this, but you occasionally use a period, but mostly don't at the end of what appear to be sentences. You could go back in and drizzle a few, as in the sentence we were just discussing, but that's at your whim. It doesn't affect the quality of the reporting. So, and thank you for that, and thank you, by the way, James Nichols Worley, for a year's worth of this, year plus of all this hard work. So that's all I got.
Okay, any other, Grant?
Yeah, it's not really change. Well, it's more just questions. So I actually had trouble on point 3 understanding what it was saying. Like I didn't find a verb, so I was wondering, is this the group?
It is admittedly a sentence.
Approved a space for a new historical plaque, or what's the action there? Because I couldn't figure out what actually happened. I
think it was just to reflect the fact that I noted that, you know, one of the markers should go there and is suited to go there. I don't think we took any action on it. And it's really, as with the other markers, it'll be a matter of, most of them will go in the public right of way. But with this one exception, I think it could go, well, it'll still be the public right of way, but perhaps depending on the layout and whether there was a wall or not, for instance, it would be inside the boundary of the park. So I just wanted to make note of that.
Okay. How about, I think a space for a new historical plaque will be made in the northeastern corner of the park that the Historical Commission secured funding for.
Right, Historical Commission has secured funding through ARPA for a possible historical plaque for the Southborough Center Historic District.
Oh, well, it's actually more than possible. It's in manufacture right now.
But I guess it'd be more accurate to describe the location is possible, not the plaque.
Yeah, well, the location, again, that is the location, and it was, in my mind, it was only in flux because the disposition of the road and whether it was approved or not at town meeting would have affected where it went. But now that it's been approved, happily, we know exactly where it'll go, and it'll go. It should go in the very northeast tip of the park.
Okay,
yeah, I think it can.
James, do you want to just take another Pass.
Historical Commission secured funding through ARPA for a historical plaque in the northeastern corner of the park.
Sounds
Okay,
good
That's
to me.
fine.
All right.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, I was just seeking clarification. And then the only other thing was the next point, point 4, stone walls formerly on parcel to be reconstructed. I'm just,
Reportedly to be reconstructed.
well, so are you talking about, is that what the committee agreed upon, or is that what the plans called for, or what the select board requested? I was trying to figure out which of those 3 actions that was referring to.
I don't think there really was any action other than if you just put all 3 through 7 under the heading, just call the heading comments on review and approval of VHB plans for park design. Then these are all points that were discussed at the meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any others?
Marguerite, your first name is spelled differently.
I know it's got the nickname spelling in the first part. It's got to be the whole shebang French spelling, I'm afraid. Technically.
So other
Where
than
am I
that,
looking?
Sorry.
What?
Oh, just spell it consistently with the UE.
Yeah.
That's the legal spelling.
and,
Where did I-
and
It's just,
I see where. I see
Yeah.
where. Okay.
Yeah.
and also just capitalize town throughout. Other than that, I have no other changes, and I move that we approve the May 5, 2023 minutes as amended.
All right. Second. Okay. I think that was a Bill second. All right. So all those in favor, Landry, aye. Mr. Dennington,
Aye.
Mr. Nichols Worley,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
I
Mr. Farrington,
Aye.
Mr. Sines.
Aye.
All right, now let's move ahead to the discussion of the VHB park design. Did everyone receive the email from Freddie about the tree modifications?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I did.
What I'd like to do with our meeting today, since we have Michael and Greg with us, I think that we have a question of switching out one or more of the big trees for another species, the situation with the windbreak, the situation with the type of flowering trees we have, the situation with the plants in the rain gardens, and then we have Grant's questions about the tree removal in the windbreak and also the permeability on the path. And then the last question is the stone wall replacement and what VHB/Perkins or whoever ends up doing it is where they're planning to put the stone walls. So if we could do it in that order, I think it would be simpler. Let's just talk first about, we have 3 large heritage trees. There was a suggestion, since they're white oak, to make one of them an elm, and then Freddie said she didn't think that was good. She suggested red maple, or whatever it is, kind of maple. Are we okay on using a maple in there instead of an elm?
Can I make a comment on that, Marguerite?
Yes.
I am not a tree expert. For diversity's sake, and so it didn't look so overly manicured, I suggested and stand by the idea that one of those trees, or perhaps 2, maybe there should be 3 different kinds of trees, but one should be different. And I read Freddie's communication that you shared with us, and it was very interesting, and I very much appreciated. The one thing I would remark on the issue of, cultivars, as it happens, St. Mark's on their green, and imagine right at 85 and Main Street, the area where we all gather for Town Day every year, and the food trucks and all that kind of stuff. The trees that St. Mark's planted along Main Street right there, I believe there are 4 or 5 of them. Those are Princeton elms, and that is a cultivar. and it's a cultivar of the American elm, a disease-resistant cultivar. So I only note that because I know, and with all respect, Freddie has far more expertise on plants than do I, and other people that who have opined on this matter have more expertise than I do. But I don't think the one thing I push back a little bit is that I'm not so doctrinaire on the subject of cultivars, because I don't believe that they're all intrinsically awful, as opposed to straight native species, and you have evidence, at least that St. Mark's believes that a Princeton elm might be an option. So I have no opinion on the substitution of an oak or a maple for an oak, or oak for maple. Maybe I thought, because of the historic significance of elms, and there are also disease-resistant chestnuts now available, which might be attractive. And so I would defer it back to the experts, only saying that I again reiterate my desire for a greater variety in the heritage specimen trees that are planted. As to the second point on the trees of the windbreak, Freddie's observations that the wind comes from the northwest. Well, not always. Sometimes it's a southerly storm, and sometimes it's an east wind on occasion, and a northeast wind, and but I think there's some agreement between myself and I guess Michael Wison and Freddie about a wall of 5 evergreens or 6 evergreens there is just going to block things in not an especially attractive way. So I would be supportive of some sort of plantings or bushes or mix of deciduous trees, or perhaps 1 evergreen or 2 evergreens again.
Okay, so if I don't want to jump in here, but the thought was originally, my head is spinning around with all of this because there've been a lot of changes. But originally, the question, the conversation was to have a windbreak to protect the cemetery, and then that was the suggestion that we gave to VHB. And now the idea on that has changed. We don't want a windbreak, though. We want something else. That's fine with me. I just want to say that we need to get 11 trees in this piece of property to replace the trees that went down. So if you don't mind, I'd like to sort of, this is sort of a great thing. We have a chance to put 11 trees into this space. What are we going to do? It'd be great. If I could ask Michael to sort of weigh in on this and what his thoughts are, since he's probably put a lot of trees into
Marguerite,
his property. Yeah.
So I just made you the co-host because I was having a little bit of instability with my internet connection, and on the right-hand side of my screen where it says participants, it says attendees 5, but then I don't see the actual names of the people, like, disappeared. Can you see them? I made you co-host.
I can see under panelists.
Okay, do you see under attendees the actual list of people?
I can, Andrew.
You can?
I get the word participants, and I get panelists and attendees. And under attendees,
I'm just looking for someone to bring over.
Oh.
Because I can't bring the person over.
If you make me co-host, Andrew, I can bring it.
Yeah, because I don't have anybody under attendees
either. Okay. All set?
Yes.
Okay.
Second, he should be coming over now. There he is.
Okay, Michael, can you tell us about trees for heritage trees? A Princeton elm, a red maple, a white oak. We've got a somewhat of a, how shall I say, creative mix here that we're not quite sure how to proceed on. What would your recommendations be?
Well, I mean, I think, within reason, you should have the trees you want. So if you want a mix of trees, that's fine. I mean, originally when I thought, thinking about this is, these The 3 white oaks, it's not like a huge monoculture. There's a bunch of trees in that part of the town, but if you want to mix it up, that's fine. I think with some of the other plantings in here, if we're taking, I don't know, Freddie was with us for a while, and I guess she chimed in again here, but she definitely, was steering us towards the native stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think all the white oak, the 3 ones on the table here for your trees are all the Princeton elm. Princeton elm is, I mean, it's good news that the ones nearby are doing well, it sounds like, but they are a little susceptible to Dutch elm disease, so it's not out of the question. You could have issues, but sounds like it's any 3 of those are fine. I guess, yeah. I mean, I think the white oaks were nice, but if you want to put a red maple in there, I think it'd be just fine. Really,
Is there
yeah.
an issue where some of them would grow faster than others?
Yeah, they'll grow different. I mean, the Princeton elm will actually grow probably the fastest, followed by the maple, then the oak. So, but they're all, they're not gonna. I guess it's what are you after? If you see each one of these as sort of, it's not really an arboretum, but each one is sort of its individual tree. It doesn't matter if they grow at different paces, their own specimen, and they're that's one way to look at it. If you were to go with 3 of the same, then I would think you'd want to kind of match them for size and try to have a little group there. Again, this is all 3 of those trees will do fine. So it's really,
All right.
It's really whatever you prefer as a group. I'm
fine with 3 oaks. It's like
I am also fine with 3 white oaks.
But you should have what you want.
we're very committee intensive, as you can tell. Question:
Yeah.
Are there any of the trees currently standing there? Grant had a question about that. Do all the hardwoods need to come down that are there now? And if so, why? And can any of them be saved?
Thanks,
Yeah,
Margaret.
so the one that we identified, because really most of the site we're using has, as you know, been cleared. There is a tree we noted on the plan that's near. Maybe may I share my screen? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Great.
Should I do that? Make you a co-host so you can share?
Or yeah, somehow it's saying it's disabled. So
How about that?
yeah, that works. Okay. So the this right here is a good sized tree, kind of small branches that hangs over the street right now. And to put in this future sidewalk and grade this all out, I think it was originally slated for removal with the whole sidewalk and the original park design. We will be, if I can, this is my planting plan, so go back to grading. It's probably a better way to look at it. So these contours are the different elevations proposed in the hard line here. So elevation 320 proposed is coming around here. 321, you can see that the existing contour 322 is here, which goes right where the tree is. So in essence, we're dropping the grade, and then to meet the new sidewalk, 88 corner here at 320. We're dropping this down about 2 feet, so there's this tree will not survive this design. So that's the one that's coming out. I don't think we noticed any of the others that have to come out for this to implement this design, because we're staying away from the ones on the cemetery.
The ones along the cemetery are staying,
yes.
and how many are those are alive now? Do you know?
I don't know. I know we're out there last year looking at them. They looked a little rough, but I think it's going to have to. I mean, does anybody on the committee notice one that's, you know? If
Yeah,
there's some that are dead now, we should.
Yeah, there's
probably
one
address
there
them.
that's a very tall tree that's it's stone dead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a widowmaker. And Michael, the tree that you're talking about cutting down in the northeast corner, I believe that's a fairly large and to my eye healthy oak. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were looking at it from, again, we have a perfect picture, but I think it's a good size oak. I think you're correct.
And there's no way to
Save it?
save it.
Yeah, I mean, is there a way to, I think Greg is waiting on the side here to get him on the conversation, because he would know more about
Sure.
the sidewalk design.
Let me promote him now. You should be coming over now.
Thanks, Grant.
Yep. Hi, Greg.
Hello.
Do we need to lose this tree, or is there some way to save it?
So, part of this is it's really to get the ADA compliance. So, I mean, there may be the possibility of continuing the sidewalk a little bit up around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of say and shift the path that's leading to this first circle, kind of up St. Mark Street. The curb ramp would still have to be in that same location, so that's really that would be the driving factor. If we shift the path up, it would be a little less invasive to the tree. So again, and also I was looking at this earlier, but I think the existing so the stone wall ended, so this is the tree that's like kind of like right at where the stone wall previously ended.
Mm-hmm.
So the front roots were already low. So if we can get around the back with the path, we might be able to kind of regrade around it, hump, kind of create a hump with the path, because we're going down, so it'd kind of be kind of turn into a swale a little bit, but
Well, that would work for me if you can do it.
we can look into it.
Yeah.
I know, it'll be one of these things where you can leave it. There's not they can do their best to work around it, but then there's no guarantee that any the construction won't impact it negatively while it's there. So I mean, they can definitely do their best to work around it.
Yeah.
It was originally slated to come out as part of the other design, which is why it was still being called out to be removed.
Well, any trees that are there that can be saved at this point,
Yeah,
I would, to me anyway, anything you could do to save anything that's already established would be excellent. I don't know how everybody else feels, but to move the path a little bit, I think would be, I would certainly support that.
I feel, Marguerite, I feel very strongly that any effort to save this tree would be really welcome from an optics standpoint. The people that were really hurt by the cutting of the trees, I would hate to see work on the park in earnest begin with the removal of the final remaining significant tree. And if it could be saved, I think it would be an awful nice gesture. And if the sidewalk had to move a foot or two left or right to get her done, I think it would play very well. And I'm thinking of it not just for political reasons, but it's certainly a consideration. I think the way the public would respond to that. So I think it would be a nice move on our part to try to save it.
Yeah, so let's see if we can, yes, I see what you're doing already. You're moving the sidewalk.
Yeah, so Greg, you're saying that this would just extend the sidewalk.
Yeah.
A little further up.
Yeah, if that's ADA compliant, I think that would be
we could do something like that. Yeah, and then without getting in the weeds here, Greg, this curb elevation is 320/71. Is that fixed because of all the road work, or can we?
That's probably fixed.
That's fixed. Okay. So 320. So we can get up a couple of feet. Yeah, it will. Yeah, depend on sort of whether the main routes, feeder routes are.
I think the one benefit, grading wise with this particular tree is that the roots on the 85 side of it are already low. So those roots are probably already at kind of that 320 elevation.
Yeah, I think we can move the pathway easily. It's the sort of back of sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some root impact on that side. So it's just a matter of, we don't want to, we can try and, like I said, have the contractor work as best they can around it.
I think that'd be great. I think we're all agreed that would be a welcome change to the plans.
Michael, could you put the original planting plan back, please? All right. Where does that? You see the third O? Where does that go?
So that's, well, I mean, this is why we're having the discussion all at once, because if we keep this big oak, maybe that's your third tree, and these are two new oaks, and you don't have this one, or you jump it up, somewhere out here, or we put them all along this edge here. I mean, the other thing now, it sounds like the spruce are going away. So you do have room for more, not only just flowering trees, but you could put some deciduous trees along that edge. That would kind of be nice to grow up under the ones that are sort of that forest edge that's been cut back. So I don't know. Designers, we always like to plant stuff in threes, but in this case, I would say, maybe you keep your two oaks or one oak and one maple, whatever you want out here, and then we fill in with some additional shade trees back.
Yeah, we need them there for the library groups too, because the kids need shade. So what types would you suggest putting where the evergreens were for deciduous?
I think you could do the maples. You could also do some other nice native trees.
If I remember correctly, I think there are sugar maples along along the wall.
Yeah, they look very nice. They're very colorful in the fall. Yeah. We need 11 new trees. So.
Yep. We'll get them on here.
All right.
We'll get them on here.
I think personally, if if we're replacing some of the evergreens with maples over on the edge of the old burial ground, I would be fine with having it just be both oaks, I guess, as the large heritage tree, because otherwise I think there'd be a lot of maples probably if you had another maple in there. Yeah.
And I personally am afraid of elms, having watched Dutch elm go through the area where I grew up. So it's tricky. So I'm okay with 2 white oaks and sugar maples. And I think there was also a suggestion somewhere, I think Freddie mentioned it, of willow. Is that a reasonable thing to put in anywhere?
She was talking about more of it's like a shrub-based lower willow. She wasn't talking about like a weeping willow.
It's not a tree. And is the holly, is the ilex a tree?
Yes, American holly is it's a smaller tree, but it's a Raleig's evergreen. You're probably more familiar with like blue hollies that are more typical. That's the only thing on all her comments. So just so by the way, I went through all of her comments, and we can, I think, incorporate them and in general, besides which trees the committee wants, but the specifics about what she wants in the rain garden, I think we're all fine. Red buds instead of the shad, they're fine. The holly gives me a little pause just because the one thing I would say, it's right on the edge of its northern range. I mean, they did grow them historically over at Western Nurseries when that was growing. But in this sort of, they're much happier down, let's say, on the Cape or on the shore, where we're a little warmer and more temperate. So winter winds can be very drying. So we're talking about how windy the site is and exposed. So if we were to use American holly, I think they're nice plants. I would, see if we could find a place that was maybe a little more protected down along the path here. I just would be a little worried about sticking them up in the wind.
Yeah, I agree. I've got a couple in my yard, and they don't like the really cold weather.
Right.
And they don't like
I have a couple too. I must say they're not a very friendly plant. You back into one of those things, that you're.
Yes. Yeah, there it is.
I also make the observation that red maple in the spring is absolutely breathtaking against greenery.
Yeah.
And that would be, in my opinion, a very nice addition somewhere in this park.
So I'm seeing like where the evergreen was, since people are now not in favor of the evergreen, to do maybe some red maple, a group of red maple up there. Does that sound like what people would like?
Well, just for me, I liked the evergreen, but and the one thing that I don't want to lose sight of is the fact that we need to have 11 trees, so not clear to me whether a holly bush is a tree. So
let's aim for 12
trees. It's not a tree.
One doesn't make it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
one that's 50 years old, it's a bush.
So here's the other part. Originally, I was understanding from what people were saying that the windbreak was supposed to protect the headstones from the northwesterly winds. Now it seems like that's not an issue anymore. Am I correct on that?
Margarita, can I comment on this?
Yes.
I want to say that I'm not opposed to some evergreens in that spot. I was just opposed to 7 of them. Mm-hmm. Block a sort of, it feels like a private, like an arborvitae privacy wall of plantings. And so I wouldn't mind, for instance, 1 or 2 spruces and with a mix of other deciduous trees. And to answer the question about the windbreak, yeah, that had been the thinking, but and the historical commission had sort of taken that view, but without any scientific expertise. We're just concerned about branches falling. As Freddie's email points out, the trees uniformly in the old burial ground are sort of under various stressors and not in very good
No,
shape.
they're on their way out.
Right. And so we're quite worried about that. And so it was natural to think, that a northeast winds, and,
Oh, I see. Okay.
that we wanted some sort of additional protection. But again, it's done, so I think any stand of trees there on that, what is now the southwest corner of the park is going to help. So it's still a consideration in my mind. And all I had said last time was that I was concerned about 7 spruces, which I thought I personally, from an aesthetic standpoint, would like to see, maybe a couple spruces and a kind of more natural mix of trees rather than again, what feels a little bit like a privacy hedge.
Well, so Michael, here's my question. Do evergreens and other trees get along okay near each other? Because I know evergreens acidify their soil. Does it affect the other trees?
Most of the native trees tend to get along, I'll put it that way. So yeah, I mean, it's normal to put a border with evergreens and deciduous trees and flowering trees. So that's
So
not
that would work out okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's just
maybe just a
matter
kind of randomish cluster there
Yeah.
of different types.
I hear this was, we were asked for a windbreak. So
Yep, I know.
there you
I
go.
remember that well.
So,
Yeah.
But we can absolutely make this feel
All right, I think that'd be
natural. More natural with a mix, again, a layering. So you've got some evergreens in there and your deciduous trees, and then we'll get the flowering trees.
Got it.
In front, and maybe even some lower shrubs, and we'll put a willow in there.
And Michael, can I say that I think Freddie's point about when you're in that main plaza, to be able to look to the south and actually make sure that we have a view toward, and there's still other, of course, plantings there, but you'll have some kind of view back toward the old burial ground and toward the Pilgrim Church. I think she's right about not obstructing the view and making sure that I know it's been a bit of a mixed message. You want windbreak, you want some protection, but you want the view. We'd also like a swimming pool, but to me, some mix of trees in that area would provide, of course, seasonal views, possibly as it opens up, and then more coverage in the summer. So Marguerite, I definitely am supportive of some sort of mix at the discretion of the experts.
All right. And I think what I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I think what I'm hearing is that American holly may not be a good choice right now, and that maybe later on it could be something that could be put in, but A, it's not going to be a tree, and B, it may not look too great if it's anything like the American holly in my front yard, which looks like it's been, well, the male is just about dead, and the female is covered with lovely red berries and it looks like it's been run over by a truck several times. And that's because it's now getting heavy north wind because they've cut all the trees down around at the end of the street. And it does not like wind. It's painful to watch. So I think maybe hold off on the American holly, but the other choices sound really good. And I love the idea of moving the walk a little bit to see if that other tree can remain there happily. So.
We have a hand raised in the audience. I don't know.
Oh, I don't have my, hang on a second.
It's Sally Waters.
Oh, Sally, go ahead. Can we bring you over? I see Marcy Jones is here too, and Sam.
I just wanted to comment about the protection of the stones in the old burial ground.
Yes, please.
I think it was well intended, the idea of a windbreak, but in going back and reading about the report when we had people come in to look at the stones, the thing that they were worried about was acid rain, not wind. And I don't think a windbreak is going to help at all with acid rain. So
thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Okay, so other questions from the group about the plantings? No, good. All right, so then we have Grant's question about the permeability of the things that the walks are made out of the crushed granite.
Yeah, and I think just for the rest of the working group, I think I only copied Marguerite and Greg and Michael on it, but I was essentially asking about the decomposed, whatever it's called, decomposed granite. I think it's also the same as not crushed stone.
The stone dust.
Stone dust, thank you. But just want to know what the runoff coefficient is, which is a measure of how much water gets absorbed into the ground versus how much runs off the property.
And so it depends. Again, this depends on how it is constructed, how well compacted the subgrade is. But we looked at it. So I'm going to start when we analyzed everything. We looked at it and basically assumed all of the paths and everything would be asphalt. Which had the coefficient 0.9 of 97.
Yeah.
Granite or the stone dust, again, kind of varies depending on how it's done, but that ranges kind of from 86 to 96. So it really, in this particular case, we I don't necessarily want everything to infiltrate through the path because we have the rain gardens, so we actually want water to get to the rain gardens in this particular instance. So that being said, it obviously it is far more permeable than asphalt, but that was kind of our methodology for doing that. And then in this particular instance, if for whatever reason, if you put the stone dust in, it doesn't work, or the maintenance becomes too much, and you want to go to something more permanent, whether it's pavers, whether it's asphalt, concrete, stamped concrete, something like that. The system's been designed to handle all of that. So
Okay.
that's kind of how we generally go about this when we're doing a site like this.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question, Grant. So as far as the library flooding is concerned, the more the ground soaks in and the less that runs off, the better.
And just one thing, Michael, I don't know if you want to bring up that plan again, but one thing we did change with the addition of the second rain garden, we ran a pipe along the edge of the library parking lot, basically a French drain, to kind of intercept any water that was flowing, down from the circles, down from the path, kind of down towards the library parking lot. It was a perforated drain, so that'll intercept any water that infiltrates, but then starts flowing downhill. And that'll infiltrate that and send it back to the rain garden and then out to the system. So now, for the most part, the only water that should be getting to the library parking lot would be coming through the cemetery,
right,
or anything that falls in that area.
That's great. That is like miraculous. Okay, so I think the last question that we need to deal with is the question of where are the stone walls going back? And I know that 100 feet came down and the plan is to put back 165 feet, but where are they going?
Can I don't know if I can share.
Go for it.
I can share my screen. So, if you can.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Oh, actually, I think Andrew, you have to do that. To make him co-host.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, sorry.
There you go, Greg.
Yeah.
All right. See that?
That's the original one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the original one, but this kind of shows where the stone walls are being relocated. So the original stone wall ran
Mhm.
from here kind of around like that.
Mhm.
So basically the intent was
Mhm.
this piece that was being taken out as part of the roadway was being put back here. And then the other piece, this piece was going to be pulled down and continued down along here,
Mhm.
just to provide kind of this one continuous stone wall. Because there were other, as part of this, there were other features along here, so there was no walls proposed on the park area.
Now, one of the questions, and thank you, that clarifies a lot. And I know that it's much more feet of wall going down than was there in total originally. But one of the questions was, people were concerned about kids running out in the road because there were really no barriers around this park space. And I think also Kevin had mentioned that it would give more of a sense of the park being in place if it had some kind of something between it and the road, so that you would feel that it was its own thing. Do you have any thoughts about maybe putting a piece of a wall along 85 or along the new St. Mark Street? Would that be prohibitively expensive at this point? Would that be a Phase B issue, or to put fencing up there, or what do you think?
I mean, I'll leave it to Michael, but I don't think I would go with fencing in this particular.
Even like the granite post with the
I mean, yeah, you could
Western-
you could do something similar like around the common with the pipe, kind of like the pipe rail fence and granite posts. The the walls do get expensive. In this case, you'd probably be looking to use stones from the DPW's stockpile. I'm not sure how much more they have left after the Main Street project, but that's kind of typically where we've taken them from, just so you get the same, same kind of stones used throughout town.
Yes.
It's again, and then I think with the trees, you might you'll start to see it, I guess feel a kind of a sense of closure. The keeping this bigger tree here, will kind of do that. One of the reasons we had the wall on this side was kind of for that reason, was to keep people from, or kids from, kind of like just strolling willy-nilly from the fields over and through and everything, which is why we kind of placed the crosswalks where we did.
But the other issue is that those are kids who are St. Mark students who are probably 10, 15 years old, but we're thinking toddlers for the library sitting in there darting out in the street suddenly.
And and I guess when we laid this out, we did have gardens kind of along 85 to kind of, or sorry, along St. Mark's to kind of minimize that, or try to minimize that, including logs and stuff, to make it, and I think it was mounted up. So I mean, that was taken into consideration as part of this design. The pipe rail fence is probably the most probably in character with this particular area. If you're going to kind of tie this to the burial ground and then to the common.
Yes, Kevin had mentioned that, and I think Grant also, because it's a historic look. Would that cost a lot to put in?
Probably not. It will not cost as much as a stone wall, to put it that way.
Well, group, what do we think? Will we be okay with granite posts with pipes?
If you don't mind. Oh, go ahead.
I would prefer to just not risk increasing the cost of the overall project and complexity of it, and just again, there might be an opportunity for kind of a phase B, project later on where you think about repair to the granite and piping around the town common, then putting in something along there that would be consistent with it. So I think you can just wait and do that second phase later. And also, if you look at the plans, I mean, the location of the rain gardens is
right. It's going to be like a little wall.
Yeah, the new landscaping does provide a border. It's just going to take time to grow in.
All right.
So,
any other thoughts?
Yeah, I have a different view. The reason I brought up the stone wall in the first place was because the select board had a meeting in which they voted to restore both the trees, the 11 trees should be restored in the park, and also a stretch of stone wall should be restored in the park area. So that's why I had originally brought it up, because I viewed it as a mandate from our appointing authority. And then we kind of talked about the benefits of, how that could enhance both the aesthetics and also potentially the safety element as well. So that's why I originally brought it up, and I think remain in favor of a stone wall on this parcel. But I suppose I would be open to the granite post with pipe as well, even though I don't think that's really fulfilling what the select board asked of us in terms of restoring stone wall to the parcel. But
well, the stone wall that was on the parcel originally was not a very good stone wall. It was mostly tumbled and messy, as I recall. And if you see the part of it that's still remaining, it's barely a stone wall at all. So I think the issue is, if we're putting stone wall back, is it going to be of the same quality as the one that was there? That basically wasn't. It was hardly a stone wall at all. So we've got the 165 feet of replacement. The question is, with this parcel, in terms of safety, to me, do we need fencing or enclosure? That's what I'm thinking about, more than simply replacing what was taken up, because I think technically what was taken up is getting replaced, and I personally would think that we might do better than what was there for the stone wall before, because it was a foot tall. It was not a very good wall at all. So if they replace that, it's not going to be the safest thing in the world. That's my opinion on that.
And I guess, sorry, one question, going back to the 11 trees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think there's plenty of space to get them, around here. But I do know, there is a parcel down here that is also going to be the town's property.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that.
So more trees could go on there too.
Would be possible to kind of replicate there as well. Right now it's just kind of an open area. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Well, I think we have replaced the number of feet of stone wall, but it's not in the same place. That's the thing. I'm not concerned with getting it exactly into the park. I'm more concerned with if the park in phase B would get basically a safety railing of some kind.
And I guess, one other thing about the stone wall.
Yeah.
So Perkins right now is under contract to reinstall the stone wall. They are not going to be doing this work.
Yeah.
Unless they get on it or whatever. But at the moment they're not under contract to do that. So depending on how long this takes, they're going to have to either rebuild the walls or stack the stones somewhere for someone else to do.
Not sure what that means.
Yeah, so they took down the stone wall,
Right.
and they have the stones stacked somewhere, to come back and reuse to build the new stone walls that they were under contract to do.
Mm-hmm.
If for whatever reason, if we decide to, or if you decide to use, like, rebuild the stone walls on this parcel and not as they were shown on the original plans, they're gonna put them somewhere for someone else to come do it. They're not gonna rebuild.
Okay. Would this run over the $250,000 to include stone wall rebuilding on this parcel?
You have to give me a minute to think about that.
I know that's a hard question, but I don't know how much it costs.
About $700 a cubic yard. So
$100.
How much was it?
about $700 a cubic yard.
Oh, that's a lot of money. That's a lot. Is that the same kind of stone wall that's around the community house now? It's a newer, more forced.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stone wall that's being, they took it out and they reset it using the same stones. The one at the community house is a retaining wall, so that's a little
different. Yeah, it doesn't look like an old.
That's a little heftier, and that the way that was built so that we did not have to use guardrail.
Yeah.
So that's there in lieu of guardrail.
Oh, I see. I see.
All right. So in terms of $700 per cubic yard, maybe I'm just struggling to conceptualize that, but like in terms of like linear feet, in terms of total feet, if you have a sense of what that. Sorry.
If you give me a couple minutes, I'll come up with.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Thank you.
Marguerite, can I just chime in?
Please.
I think since the stone wall the length of wall will be approximately replaced in the area, and since, I mean, just looking at it, the rain gardens kind of physically separate the main part of the park from the road. I think we're okay for now, not to worry about putting a stone wall in between those rain gardens and the sidewalk on Route 85, because there is going to be a sidewalk there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm okay with voting to approve this plan with the modifications we talked about tonight, but not including the wall for a later discussion.
I think that makes sense just from a budget standpoint, that this sounds like a undertaking, adding a lot more feet of wall than is in the original plan. Sounds like it's something that it threatens the overall budget for the project that was approved at town meeting.
Yeah, I agree. The other part of it is I would like to see how it all looks before I decide that a stone wall would be a nice thing to have there. I mean, it's sort of I would like to be able to visualize what.
Great. May I interject for a second?
Please.
Would it be inappropriate to put in the minutes of our approving meeting here that we are concerned about the separation? Not to provide a solution, but just to let the selectmen know that there is a discussion that we've had that expresses the fact that we're concerned about separating the park from the new St. Mark's Road.
Yep.
That goes through there.
It's a kind of a concern about the safety issue too, basically.
Yes, I mean, I think we could phrase all of that together in something, and let the selectmen try to figure out if that's appropriate for them and how they're going to raise the money if that's appropriate.
Right.
Yeah, can I chime in on this, Marguerite?
Sure.
The restoration of the stone wall that's proposed is certainly going to make the St. Mark's parking lot blend in more attractively with the town center, and it's going to make it more, harmonious. And I'm very glad of it. it of course does nothing for our park. So I'm absolutely no appetite to obstruct on the point, and I'm certainly happy to see it as part of a phase 2 if it needs to be. And with 60% of the select board on the call, either in the working group or in the attendees, I would love to see some commitment to really do this, because I actually think that fencing, whether it be a stone wall or the granite post and iron rail, similar to the town green, is absolutely vital, both for safety, for defining the space, for aesthetic values, for its blending in historically with what we have downtown. And I can tell you, with a curb cut access to the parking lot off St. Mark Street, directly opposite the park, for the St. Mark's new parking lot, there is no question in my mind that people are going to walk directly across and create what they sometimes call desire paths, and not use the walkway. If the space is defined with the kind of iron rail fence that we have around the town green, where the openings are at the library, at the top of the park, near the St. Mark's ball fields, and at the bottom at Route 85, people will use those 3 entrances. If there's no fencing and no railing, we're going to get desire paths, and things are going to get worn down quickly. And so I do think, again, go look at the Corderville Pocket Park that we have, very nicely defined by, edging. There has to be a commitment. Let's move forward now with what we've got. But I just say it in the strongest possible way. I think it's so important to the ultimate success of this park that there really be a stage of phase 2 that would involve fencing it with either a stone wall, and hopefully some folks will step up with some funds for that, or the granite and iron rail fencing system.
All right.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yes, please, Andrew.
And I'd be curious on what, Greg, you think about this. What about in the bid, asking for an alternate, including an alternate on completing the stone wall in the park part? So that would separate out the.
Yeah. No, that okay. I mean that's an option. I guess then
you'd see how much it would cost with and without.
So I guess the key here, from a cost perspective, is are you building the other part? Are you building the other portions of the wall as they were laid out in the original plans, or are you taking those out?
No, not taking it out
and using those stones on the park. Yeah, so it's like, because you're, you which is either way is fine. They just have to be, the contractor will have to know, all right, do we have the stones? Do we have to find the stones?
So this is for someone who's looking to bid on it. They don't have to include this, right? So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you wanted to, you could bid on it and see what the cost would be, right?
Yeah. So I mean, in general, the stone wall could be anywhere from, depending on how it's built, anywhere from, say, $50,000 to $60,000 for 160 feet, up to over 100, 140, depending on what the prices are.
Okay, so that is good to know, but I think that is another conversation. I think I agree that we have a plan with the plantings, which will be corrected with a slight correction to the corner walk exit to save that tree or not. We have the plantings. I think we can vote on that, and then we can also put strong language in when we give it to the select board, that we consider it very important. As Kevin said, that we're concerned about safety and aesthetics, and that we would strongly recommend that anything necessary be done to find a way to put some kind of walling around that park that was appropriate. I didn't word that very well, but you get the general idea, right? So can we vote on the design as it will be amended and say that we support this, and let the Board of Selectmen have this to put out to bid for their meeting on the 23rd? Do I have a motion to do that?
So just the changes you're talking about, if I wrote them down correctly, were
Yep.
Move the path that's kind of west to try to
Yes.
save a tree.
Yep.
Sugar maples instead of
Evergreen.
No. I thought you were talking about instead of the white oak, right? I'm fine with the white oak, but
Me
are we
too. I
keeping?
thought the two white oaks were going to stay, and one was going to
Okay.
go, and then
Okay.
a couple sugar maples in there, and then
Are they sugar maples or red maples?
oh, red.
I don't know whether sugar maple.
I thought they were the same thing.
Red
I
Well,
would suggest all things being the same. I'd suggest the red maple.
Red maple.
red maple.
Red maple. Thank you.
Okay. And the layering of the trees in the windbreak area, right?
Yep. The former
Okay.
windbreak, formerly known as the windbreak area, right?
I put it in parentheses, windbreak
Right.
area.
AKA windbreak area.
Yeah.
The trees formerly known as the windbreak
Yeah.
area. Right. And then the bushes, the blooming bushes would be the ones that Freddie recommended, which were I forget what they were. Where was it? There's so many pieces of data floating around for this. What was it that she recommended?
She wanted red bud in place of the shed.
Yes. Okay. And then some slight modifications to what was in the rain gardens.
Correct.
And then I think we're good.
And then do you think that you could make those adjustments so that by the select board meeting a week from today on the 23rd, that we'd be able to have a new version? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
No, it's fine. I am I'm already working on it as we're talking. So
okay.
I realize you have nothing to do but this.
I'm headed out on a big road trip Thursday through Monday, so I'm gonna be handing this off to somebody to draw tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
And then Greg will send it over. But yes, I'll be looking at it.
Okay. So with those changes, do I have a motion to accept this plan as modified?
Marguerite, I think there's one last thing, and I just don't want to make sure we don't miss it. And this is in response, I think, to Michael's email back to you. Is there was talk about the medallion that was contemplated for the center of the main plaza, and I think Michael pointed out that not dealing with that immediately might pose some challenges down the road when you go to put something in. Because it might require heavy equipment that would be disruptive to the built site. And it gives me an opening to offer some thoughts about, we had this conversation at length the last time, and it was, I think productive, that, this was originally a historical walk and it sort of evolved, and that the history that's involved in this site, as I tried to explain last time, is very rich, multi-stranded, but complicated, and in a sense kind of fragmentary. And we don't have, as we talked about, the kind of bell as a centralizing artifact that we have in the Corderville Park. But we do have a lot of stuff. And I didn't know if there was some thought about coming up with verbiage for a medallion, or if we just do it later. But I just want to update the working group on the fact that, Dan Blanchard has continued to work over there digging. And he has come up with, I saw him again today, And he has come up with some amazing stuff. I now have in my possession from Dan over 500 artifacts in this site that go back to colonial times. There are colonial artifacts, federal artifacts, lots of 19th century stuff, all the way up into the 20th century, including now recent finds, if I may. That is a Civil War bullet. One of several. In fact, this is a different variety of Civil War bullet. This one has the lead inner sort of explode. It kind of expands on firing, which helps it's a bored bullet that makes it spin more accurately. So this issue of, one of the organizing principles was, the components of a town, a mustering ground, old burial ground, meeting house. Well, now we have the evidence, the physical evidence that, some of the men who went off and fought, there you go, Bill's got some.
These came out of my front yard. They're all over the place.
Sure.
Over the place.
But, the guys that went to, the Civil War and are memorialized on the obelisk in front of the townhouse. Here's what they were training with. Dan came up with, this is an intact late 19th century, this is actually a laxative, Dr. S. Pitcher's Castorelia.
Yeah, I wonder what was really in it.
Anyone's in need. He found, here's one, I gotta show you this. A clay pipe, the bowl and the stem. We've got two of those. Clay. This is Thomas Davidson, Glasgow. It's actually embossed with the maker and the city. These were made between 1861 and 1891.
Is that behind the stone house that he did this dig?
In the park. This is
Okay.
William Washington may have smoked that pipe. Here's a ginormous, this is a pitcher. 2 pieces of and this is actually a really large piece. What is thought, Dan believes, is an iron belt buckle.
Where is this going to be displayed?
Well, that is.
You've got your musket.
If you want historical, I'll give you this. This is real.
What war is that? What war is that?
Kevin.
This is Civil War.
Oh, wait, stay right there.
And I don't want to keep on with the show and tell, but some of this is hand thrown pottery. There's fine English china. There's porcelain. There's transfer ware. There's institutional ware.
But Kevin, that's not going to. That has nothing to do with the
bayonet.
Oh, there we go. That has nothing to do with the park.
It does, Bill, because all of these artifacts, all 500 of them, were found in the park.
Where are they going to be displayed? They can't be displayed in the park as we've designed it.
Of course not. I'm not going to belabor this much longer. I just want to say that this was originally sold to town voters as a historical walk, and although I've deferred on the grounds that it is a difficult story to tell and it's not easily told, I'm not calling for a glass case in the middle of the park. I would just like to, on the question of the historical medallion of granite, as it's called in the last meeting minutes, note that though we're pulling back on that, and I think it's the right move and the smart move, and this is going to have to be a Phase B matter also, I believe. I just wanted to note for the record that I would hope, again, that our good friends at the select board, some of whom are with us now, would be on board with working to find an appropriate place, as Bill asks, to display these things. And I'm unclear on where that is. I had floated the idea of maybe at the library. I said if the Historical Society were remaining at the Flag School, it would have been ideal because you would simply cross the street and go look at the stuff. We could direct people with a little signage over there. So Bill, it's very much in flux. I don't have an answer, but what I do have is 500 pieces of pottery, pipes, bullets, bottles that I want to find a home for. And I thank you for just allowing me 3 or 4 minutes to let you know that I got all
What?
this stuff. And
Kevin, what's going to happen to the flag school?
I don't know. Ask,
Well, just to, so I mean, the question, right, is to remove the stone medallion so that it can be the granite medallion, so that if you wanted to come up with something slightly different down the road, you could do that, or to not do that, right? That's the thing that we're.
Well,
So just to confirm,
one other thing, Andrew, is that I just thought to myself, you know, maybe because the story is too complex to tell on a small medallion.
Got it.
Maybe if we decide to name the park, it would simply say, you know, in the medallion, Southborough Heritage Park, if that's the name, dedicated 2024. And, you know, I don't know, because I
Why
can't.
don't we leave the granite off? Let's just say we don't want the granite in there right now.
Well, so I have a question for Greg and Michael. So I think the plan as it currently is that in that large plaza circle, it's a concentric brick circle, I think, right? And then in the center, when you get to the center, the granite is in the middle. So if we remove the granite,
From the design,
what would the rest of it be? Bricks continuing in the pattern in the center, or, you know, would it just be grass in the inner circle?
No, I think you'd fill in the middle with bricks. You just keep going.
Yeah.
Cut some.
Right.
So
which
just
actually is a
there, and
very
then-
beautiful design, if you ask me.
And that's able to be done.
Yeah, so that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, in that image we have in the plan, we took a completely concentric brick design and we pasted the medallion over it, so it'll be easy to reverse that on the drawings. So,
Okay, great.
Good.
Just one other follow-up, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Were there any other historical markers planned in the park or in the original designs, or was that the only one?
This was, I mean, I guess the idea originally was, you know, we had looked at various markers, whether it was related to the story,
Mhm.
Story walk. Yeah.
story walk, history walk, and I think in the original intent was that, all right, we'll do the backbone of it, and then there will be the opportunity to come back and basically supplement as we go, whether, because again, at that point the story walk hadn't been built yet.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, that was kind of that was one of the ideas that had kind of been floated out, was basically, all right, we'll build the backbone of everything and kind of here's what it is.
Right.
And then, as you know, whether people wanted to donate money to, you know, purchase things or donate things, you know, kind of build it up as phase B through Z. You know,
Okay.
as you go. I think that was the original intent.
All right.
The
So
reason I ask, I think, is I think last time we had discussed that we're probably just not ready to put our own historical markers in right now because, you know, the story is changing and, you know, we're not really sure what we would put or how many, that kind of thing. So just wanted to make sure that like historical signposts or anything aren't included in here currently. Okay, thank you.
all right. Any other questions? Are we ready for a vote?
yes, so Marguerite, so I'll read this out, that I move that we vote to send the current plan that we have. We send this plan to the select board so that they can put it out to bid at their meeting next week or as soon as possible, with the changes that are noted in our minutes, and then just in detail, moving the sidewalk to save that one tree, adding red maples in place of oak trees, layering trees instead of all evergreen in that southwestern corner where the former windbreak was, modifying the rain gardens and bushes, attempting to add in new stone walls, and removing the granite memorial medallion.
I'm going to ask to modify it. I'm going to say putting in red maples in place of some of the oak trees.
Yes, in place of some others.
And then the other part of it is I would not mention the walls. I would say I would put everything you did, but I leave the wall part out. And then I would say, with the proviso that we strongly recommend that the select board follow up on putting stone walls or some type of walls around it.
That sounds good to me.
This is for safety purposes.
For safety and aesthetics, yep.
Wait, James, did you say that you would be replacing the 2 oaks with the other trees, or?
No, that's what I
Adding-
said.
No.
Adding red maples in place of some oak trees.
I don't think that's accurate. I think we discussed keeping the 2 oaks that are there and then replacing the red maples, replacing the evergreens with some red maples.
Yes, but there were 3 oaks there originally on the design, so we're going to keep 2 oaks and make one a red maple
Oh, I see. Okay.
for the big ones. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read it again. Moving the sidewalk to save the tree, possibly save the tree, adding a red maple in place of an oak tree, layering the trees near the old burial ground, modifying the rain gardens and bushes, removing the granite memorial. Further, look into putting in new stone walls in a separate bid.
Yes. Okay.
The only thing
Or
I would
some
say,
kind of walls, stone walls or some type of walls.
the only thing I would say is that you're moving the path to save the tree, not the sidewalk, I think. That's my only change. Because the sidewalk, I think, is in the same
I think
Yes.
I think
place.
they
It's
both-
I agree.
the path inside the park.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do I have a motion to,
I'm so moved.
okay, do I have a
Accepted.
second?
Second.
All right. Landry, aye.
Dennington.
Mr. Dennington.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols Worley.
Aye.
Mr. Farrington.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask one quick question, if that's all right.
We're in the middle of a vote, though.
I know. If
This is not appropriate.
it's not appropriate,
Nope, you
I
can't.
don't think so.
No, it's gone to the vote.
well, there wasn't any room for discussion, but okay. Aye.
Okay, and Mr. Sines.
Aye.
Okay, so it's passed unanimously.
We
What
can-
was
I
your
think you
question?
took Kevin's vote.
Oh, Kevin.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you're not on my picture. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Here you are. Now you are.
That's
Okay.
okay, Marguerite.
Fired.
A very happy eye.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Grant, what was your question?
It doesn't matter now. We already approved it.
Oh, but it could be a clarification that the select board might want to hear.
I just wanted to clarify that the current plans for the sidewalks on 85 don't involve removing any of the stone wall that's there currently.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole different thing, isn't it?
I don't know. It's in the plan that we just approved. So that's why I asked.
Okay, so we've approved that. Now, do we have any other issues? No, we're done. Thank you very
Well,
much.
So if we could let our friends Michael and Greg
Yes, thank you. My
and work.
God, you've been a
Thank you for your
Patience.
patience. Yeah. Unusual process.
Congratulations.
But I think it's going to
Thank
be
you.
a really nice park. And it'll
Yes.
kind of grow over time. It's in a great location. And it's been a long and winding road to
As it
get
were.
here.
right.
We're at the end of hopefully this long and winding road.
Anyway.
But thank you very much for
Yes,
your
thank you for your
patience.
expertise, which has been fantastic. And have a good night. And Bill, I want to know where you got your gun from.
Well, before that, Marguerite.
My great grandfather.
Get out.
No.
Wow. Sorry.
Is this a question, a procedural question? Is this the end of this committee's commitment? In other words, is
That's
the
what I was
committee-
getting to.
Yes, I think it is. We expire on the 30th of June.
It is not. We haven't decided on a name for the park.
That's fair.
This is part of our charge, so we need to do that.
Well, that's something we can talk about next week.
No, not
We're
at
meeting
a
next
meeting.
week.
The
Oh.
select board, not the
Oh,
senior
so-
group.
All right.
I don't envision it being a long thing, but it is part of our charge, and I think we all.
Well, do you
kind
have
of-
an idea or a proposal?
No, it's not on our agenda either, but I think we could have a quick meeting to discuss ideas, come up with one. You know, it doesn't have to be before the plans are done. You know, it could be anytime before June 30th when this just goes away, but
I feel that
it is part of our charge.
the naming of the park is part of our charge, and I would say to the select board that the naming of this park is going to be very important, and I don't think it should be up to 6 people to do it.
Yes, we could always say that we want, for example.
It should be more far-reaching.
Yeah.
Well, the select board already thought that these 6 people should do it. That's why they appointed us.
They packed it.
At what, Bill?
Nothing. I'm muttering again. Ignore me.
Well, what we could recommend maybe is that this could be under the purview of maybe the Tricentennial Committee, like the park could be formally dedicated under the Tricentennial. It's also just that this committee is supposed to have a lot more members, nearly twice as many.
Well, the other part of it is, if we give a name to this park, it's 6 people in a town of 10,000 people that will be using the park. Do you really think that we could come up with a good permanent name for it?
Well, if we wanted to do it properly, and we do have time for it, we could have another public forum and maybe do a survey, see what the people really think, have an opportunity, kind of like we had the previous public forum, for people to throw out names, which we did hear some name suggestions, maybe even have a survey in which people can vote on a number of, we do have 8 weeks until our committee does,
So here's
So if you wanted to do it properly and make sure that input from the town is heard, you could, or we could just come up with one ourselves. We could just come up with one ourselves.
Do you have an idea?
Let's ask the selectmen whether, in fact, that should be our continuing charge.
I think that makes sense.
And here's my other part of the recommendation. I say this park is going to be built by the end of August or the beginning of September, at which point we will see what it looks like.
You have plenty of time.
But by that time, when you see what it looks like, I think the town can be called in to say, here is your park. What do you all think it should be named? And I think that's the time for focus groups. And I think that's the time for discussion. Because we don't know what it's going to look like. We might give it a very grand name that would look ridiculous, or a simple name that would be not grand enough. So I think
but that will extend beyond the charge of this committee. And so I would think that the Board of Selectmen now has to get involved. If in fact we want to go there, which I think is a decent idea, but the Board of Selectmen better opine as to how it's going to be named. And if they want this committee to take charge of doing that, let's say so. If not, they can figure out other ways to do it.
The naming of the park should be actually a lot of fun, and it should be very town involving to do, I think. I think that would be
agree with that. Yeah, agree with that.
Well, personally, I think now that the hard part is over, right? We approved the plans.
Yes.
So I don't think it would be that cumbersome to have another meeting to discuss a name. Even, I understand that we're all sick of seeing each other, so we could meet in 6 weeks or something if you don't want to see each other.
I think we need to take a little break. And I think that we should ask the Board of Selectmen, which includes Andrew, Sam, who's still here, and me, whether the naming of the park is something that the group should undertake at a later point.
Yeah. Sounds good.
In that case, in the interest of, since we don't know when our next meeting will be, because the charge goes for the next 45 days, but the meeting minutes would hopefully be 40. If we could, if someone can give me co-host, I can share my screen and we can look at tonight's minutes
and approve them. Yep.
I believe that is something we can do.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, does that have to be on the agenda?
No, it could be any other business which shall properly come before the working group.
There we go.
Okay, then. Hopefully you all can see my screen.
Can you zoom in?
Yes.
Jeez.
Is that better?
Oh, it sure is. I don't see a thing.
I don't see anything now.
Give it a second.
Yeah,
there we
you
go.
go.
Excellent.
Whoop.
Oh,
Now
Now it's gone.
Sorry. There we go.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
So bear with me as we go through this, and then I guess we can take it one line at a time. So 3.
all right, can you scroll up a bit?
So under 3C Sally Waters, you got to have I think a Y
Oh.
at the end of the name. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm getting into like other spelling grammar stuff, just the bit general idea.
Mhm.
Looks okay.
Michael Kletchman discusses.
I think that is deciduous. Is that spelled correctly? You just spell check it.
Let's see.
Where are we?
There it is.
Yeah, that's
No.
right.
It looks right to me.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's one of those words that looks wrong no matter how you spell it. Cytocomposite winter tree, deciduous trees of Venice.
Grant, I'm wondering here if I got the right description of a runoff coefficient. Like this is because
Sorry,
you brought this.
where is that point 4?
97, right. 4A.
Amount of runoff. No, it's the amount
I don't know.
the amount of precipitation that sorry.
It's basically the permeability. How much?
How much of the water runs off of the property? How much of the water runs off of the property is essentially what it is.
Yeah,
I think that covers it.
me too.
And it was 86 to 96 was the decomposed granite.
Oh, great.
Okay, where does pipe 2B run along the edge of the library parking lot? It already has been run.
Yeah, I think you can just take that out.
Yeah.
Take the whole thing out. Right, there you go. Mm-hmm.
5A.
For
I'm
stone
not,
wall replacement, it should be 100 feet of walls came down. At least 160 feet of walls will go back up outside of the park area, right?
Yes.
It's not. There's no stone walls in the park.
Yes.
Yeah, that's clarified in 5A.
Mm-hmm. Russell clarifies that the stone walls will be located onto the moved sections here.
Well, I think it can be in both places.
Yeah.
And stone reference to the park already.
Sorry, Kevin, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was ahead of you, sorry. 5B, Russell advises against the wall or fence between the park and Route 85. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I also.
I thought I heard him say that, but
What about Russell discusses a wall or fence between the park and road?
I don't think he. I don't.
I think
Maybe
the concept of fence is what I think confused that discussion.
Yeah.
I don't think he thinks of chain link fence or something like that.
Yeah.
makes
So what
sense.
about Russell comments, trees, and landscaping?
Chain link fence, was that mentioned?
No, I would say
No, it wasn't. But I think that
Yeah,
when we talked about fence, that popped up in everyone's mind.
What about Russell discussed wall fences and alternatives around the periphery of the park?
Yeah.
Right. He did that.
Yeah, around the periphery of the park. There
Yep.
you go.
And then for the rail-like fence, it could go in the area. Isn't it at a later date, or is it?
yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, currently landscaping and rain garden separates the road from the main pathway. Well, actually, landscaping in the rain gardens functions as a boundary, is what he meant.
Yeah. creates a boundary between the road.
Right. And the
And-
park.
Mhm.
The road and the park.
So point
That's-
D, it's
Yes, I didn't quite get what he was saying with this about.
So this is what,
so the current contractor is under contract to replace the stone wall, like along St. Mark's Street on the other side of the park.
Yeah, that's Perkins.
Right.
They're doing that because they have been doing the Main Street project. Perkins is not doing the park, although maybe they will do the park if they bid on it.
And then you can say on Route 85 as well. But not in the
Yes.
park area, but not in the park area or something like that.
It's a different,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, 6A, James.
I'm sorry, I was typing fast.
Yeah, 6A, archaeological artifacts would be more
What?
appropriate than curios.
I forgot the word. I won't lie.
Good, that's good.
And that was Kevin saying that, right?
Okay, memorial medallion, yeah. Memorial medallion is not going to be removed because it isn't installed. Memorial medallion will not
be
be
removed.
installed.
In plans.
Mhm. No, again, it's in the plans, but it's not going to be removed. Oh, removed from plans. Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Perfection. All right.
Did we lose some?
No, I think we're good.
all right, so it looks like I'm gonna be the person to move to adjourn.
Okay, do I have a
right.
second?
So Bill, you want to rehearse this? You are gonna be the person to second.
Okay.
Ready?
Bill's
Oh,
gonna-
Wait, we have to
Second.
approve the
we have
minutes,
to
though.
approve the minutes first.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
move-
I know you've got children and a whole entire life.
Do
that-
it.
All right,
Do
I
it.
move
Yeah.
that we approve the minutes of the May 16 meeting of the working group.
All right, Mr. Dennington, second, Landry.
Second.
Mr.
No.
Stein, Mr. Dennington, Mr. Miller, Mr.
Aye.
Nicholas Worley, Mr.
Aye.
Farrington.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are unanimously approved. All right, and now for adjournment, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, except I'm supposed. All right,
All right, you do it. Okay, sorry, I'm missing that. Go for it.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Do I hear a second? All right,
I second.
Mr. Dennington,
Aye.
Ms. Landry, aye. Mr. Nicholas Worley,
Aye.
Mr. Farrington,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Signs.
Aye.
All right, it is now.
Well, also one thing, just put in the documents. I would also list the email that Freddie sent to Marguerite
Yeah,
on May 15.
Good idea.
Yeah, and include that in the minutes.
And what about, should we also do Greg's with his responses to your questions, Andrew?
Sure, that's a good idea. Yep.
VHB, right.
Great.
Okay.
All right,
Girl.
everybody. Good night.
All right,
Okay,
thanks,
good night.
everyone.
We'll make sure they
Thank you,
get
everyone.
included in the packet.
Thank you, James. Multiple VOUs, right?